Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, I subjected myself to the Barbie movie. I wanted to do it after everyone else had already done it. And, I'm not always into the breaking trend type of thing. So, I'll do it at my own pace. And I have a lot to say about the film. Now, there's been a lot of Barbie cartoon shows. I had Barbies as a kid. Took a lot of their heads off. I did have some fancy ones, though, like with nice dresses and shoes and a little closet. I had a dollhouse. I did throw some of my sister's Barbies to the dogs and let them chew on the hands, Typical stuff, My Barbie would have been weird Barbie after a while, but I had some glamour ones. I had Jasmine Aladdin, I had Mermaid Barbie, I had the horse Barbie that you put batteries in and it walks and your Barbie can sit on it. I had a good collection, actually. Good collection. Don't have any of them now. My grandma, I think, has them in her garage. So, I'll put that out there, okay? I'm guilty of playing with them too. Did have a Barbie car, pink Corvette. Did have Ken dolls, alright? And accessories and all that. So believe me, I was part of that generation, right? So I have a lot to say about the film. And to begin, the opening section, I have some notes here. The girls, they stop playing house and they start crushing the baby dolls. This is very symbolic. I know some people might disagree with how I first read that, but it's disturbing watching a doll in the shape of a baby being bashed apart. I remember a news story for Halloween this past October where some neighbors in some community had hung naked, bloody baby dolls from a tree as a Halloween decoration, and neighbors started complaining because it's very jarring. The Beatles, they had an album cover with a bunch of babies on it, baby dolls. I remember Eddie Bravo shared a video where they were bashing babies, dolls, and this is, when you look at it from an occultic angle, the rejection of motherhood, and then you see the rise in shaken baby syndrome in America. And I have covered, and I also have future videos that I'm going to cover, I have screenshots and stuff of where women actually murder their own babies because they're depressed. They don't have this strong motherly spirit. If you recall, I shared on the community tab a while ago where a woman was screaming that she hates her baby to the child's face. And if you're a good mom, you don't make excuses for that type of rage on an innocent kid. It's different when you're yelling at like a 13-year-old, you're like, clean your room and do this, it's quite different. Screaming at a baby doesn't do anything for the baby. That's not how you stop the crying. And my second was, she's breastfed, right? But she was still colicky, and I understand that type of crying can be very hard to deal with. However, screaming doesn't do anything, and that is not a solution, and anger management and gracious patience is the key. So, when we see a rise now of women murdering their children and harming their children and getting abortions, right? Do you recall that famous news story where a woman had just given birth, a Latina girl, and she put her newborn in the trash and it died in the hospital? I remember watching the police arrest video. It was very viral. Even the sheikh from Green Lane Masjid, Abu Usama al-Thahabi, I think is his name, he even talked about it. So even people across the pond heard of this news story. So we see what happens when women reject their babies, they reject motherhood. The world becomes quite dangerous for children, right? So when Barbie opens up with baby dolls being rejected and hurt and bashed, torn apart, essentially, broken apart, that is troubling. Because what happens when the Barbie gets pregnant? She no longer has the same figure. Now, there's a pregnant Barbie, and the CEO, Will Ferrell, he goes, I'm so glad I discontinued that. And then the narrator also says a pregnant doll is just too weird, and it was discontinued. So I want you to notice two things right there. The pregnant doll is mocked. The little girls are encouraged to stop playing house, and we are told that each Barbie has her own house and career. So CEO, boss babe, very materialistic already off the gate, which would be quite obvious because Barbie is almost a slur now. And interestingly, Sasha, one of the main characters, the young girl, she does the typical other angle of the feminist, where it's more anti-traditional femininity standards, right? So there's different brackets of feminists, but the Sasha girl is one angle of the feminist. She calls Barbie a fascist, which is kind of funny, and how Barbie set women back 50 years because of unrealistic beauty standards. And so you see the different philosophies of feminism, the different factions that is, kind of going a little tit for tat in this film, but the film regardless is feministic and a rejection of motherhood, even though Barbie calls an old lady beautiful and the old lady says, I know, and there's this sort of forever young meets the passing on of your beauty torch, right? The old lady represents, in essence, a farewell to your beauty. Barbie is perfect, but then later becomes not perfect. And there's so much to discuss. But I just wanted you to realize that it's so precious and innocent when you see little girls with their baby dolls, because you feel safe. If you saw a little boy stabbing the eyes of a baby doll, a mom would naturally call that, oh, that's toxic masculinity, that's dangerous, he's a serial killer. But then when they see a little girl do it, suddenly it's, you're an empowered feminist. You see what I mean here? There's something wrong about doing something like that. It feels wrong when you love your children. When you're holding an innocent baby, like, okay, for example, women who've done home births, right? And women who survive C-sections, just in general. If you notice how when a woman has picked up her baby and the umbilical cord is still there and she holds it and she's crying in that joy, a woman on a deep level recognizes the miraculous gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this woman. She survived pregnancy, the baby survived pregnancy, and they both survived delivery. Their journey's not over, postpartum is coming. A lot of children unfortunately perish in infancy, but they've made it. The child has exited out of the portal of the vagina into this realm and breathed air on this planet for the first time. It's a tremendous event. It is beautiful, can make so many women cry. It's precious. And so when a little girl sees like mommy breastfeeding the baby, changing the diaper, little girls love to imitate their moms when they have a good relationship with their moms and their mom's a good example. This is why when you see some women twerking on like Goofy at Disneyland and acting totally disgusting and their daughters are copying them, you see that and you're like, you're disgusting because you're teaching bad habits to your daughter. And a feminist gets really angry when a traditional religious woman doesn't agree with little girls destroying baby dolls, right? And it is true that there's always been different types of dolls, but the Barbie doll was an adult doll instead of a baby doll. So what this did to the little girls is for them to imagine what it would be like in a perfect body and with all the materialistic items you wanted. Okay? And helping them to practice their femininity in an adult sense, right? And the thing is, when you play with a baby doll, you're practicing being a mom. When you play with the Barbie originally, it's like how you'll be as an adult and the glamourness of being a woman, a different aspect of femininity. And so it shouldn't be discouraged for little girls to naturally decide to play with baby dolls. But I did find it quite jarring for them to smash the dolls because it represents like the attack on the innocent. Because a baby is a needy, innocent, pure, helpless soul who is a gift. Even though you're sleep deprived, even though you're sore, it's still a gift. It is. A child is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a trial. You don't have any guarantee how your kid's going to turn out. If your relationship with each other will last, maybe they'll resent you. You don't know. But while they're that small, there is no greater purpose for you in this world. And it's a sign that this world is something else and that our souls are divine. Divine as in we are creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not just a random mixture of atoms and then we're just going to disappear into nothingness like how atheists contend. But there's something very deep and beautiful about the cycle of life. And baby dolls are a symbol of the passing on of the skills of motherhood. And women having broken families now, they don't really have the same support system for raising children, and this creates a lot of problems. But when you have your first kids, you want your mom to be there for you. And if you don't have that, you just wish you had a healthy mom who was super nurturing, who could tell you all the secrets and help you out with your pregnancy. And also help you out with baby and when you have your delivery. And be there for you in your postpartum period. Not everyone has that. The baby doll ritual, it's almost like you're training your daughters to have some familiarity with children or have mercy towards children. Right? Be nice to the baby, hug the baby, kiss the baby. Like this is how you would talk to your daughter, just like how you would with a puppy. Like you teach them how to treat animals. You teaching your young one how to treat a baby is important. So seeing kids damage a baby doll, I see that as a behavioral problem rather than a sign of female empowerment, as the feminists would contend. And just the emphasis of careers is like, wow. And the fact that they had like the word Barbie over and over and over was a bit redundant, you know. Hi Barbie, like, oh. And the scenery was junk, you know. Barbie's house was nothing special. It should have been gaudy, as in super ornate, luxurious. It was very retro, and I thought that was weird. It was like vintage retro. I didn't find that very unique in scenery design. And I have a lot of notes here. Yeah, just so much pink, and there was pink trash cans, and the women were taking out the trash in Barbie Land. I thought that was funny, taking out the trash with their hair down. And it's like, in the real world, there's gonna, the men, I take out the trash, but you're in your pajamas with your hair bun on and a hijab, right? You're not pajamas in like plicker checkered, but you're not like trying to look super cute and taking the garbage, like, you know. But again, it's Barbie, but it's just a little ridiculous. The fact that the Ken dolls weren't taking out the garbage, I thought was kind of strange. And they had a fat Barbie, and she was talking about logic and emotions, and it's like, No one wants to play with fat Barbie. You know, of course, that's what we mean by when we say it was woke. Like, the president of Barbie Land was like a black, empowered woman, right? She wasn't even like the homely, nice black lady, which would have been nice. And she wasn't very beautiful. Like, there's tons of, I don't want to sound rude, but there's a lot of runway models. They may not have been good at acting, but a black Barbie should look like a black Barbie. Like, there's some flawless women where you're like, why didn't they get the job? But again, they chose mediocre looking female actors to be the Barbies. And there's tons of really beautiful black women who could have been the leader. And I did notice how in the film they were saying the men can't have a place on the Supreme Court. And then they talked about how the real world was made for men and Barbie Land's made for women. So the Constitution and all that. And then there's so much symbology there. But they could have had, like, for Barbie, the main character, it should be someone who looked like Britney Spears in her prime or Jessica Simpson in her prime. Because those women were, Britney Spears is crazy now, going off her rocker. But they were the type, like, that's a Barbie. Like, Christina Aguilera, Pamela Anderson, they look like naughty porn stars. They look more slutty, more naughty, like, dirty, right? They're more lustful. But, or there's like a, oh man, I wish I could find the clip. But there was a beauty pageant one where a woman was asked a question and she doesn't answer right, and she has her tiara and her sparkly dress, and she's quite stunning, but, you know, her brain cells are lacking. But there are tons of Russian, Ukrainian, just a good representation of white beauty that could have been used. Because this actress, I thought, like, she looks like she's 40. Like, she doesn't have that youthful glow to her. It just didn't feel right. And Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio in their prime would have been a better Ken doll than Ryan Gosling, in my opinion. And they didn't have any really fancy Asian Barbies where, like, you could see some really stunning Asian beauty. So as Muslims, they had a hijabi there, right? But, you know, it just wasn't a good match. If you're gonna have a hijabi, I think you should have a woman from Saudi Arabia. You should have someone who looks like the Disney Princess Jasmine. But again, as Muslims, we cover our beauty for the sake of Allah. And so I get the conundrum here, right, where we cover, but a woman can look nice for her husband. But I'm just critiquing the film from what I see, as in the truth to the genre and the political undertones of the modern era that are under the Barbie film, right? So that's what I'm getting at. So the main actors and the cast in general could have been actually more beautiful women, in my opinion. And so that's how you can see it's very feministic, because not very beautiful women were chosen. Now, I am not saying that I'm some Jessica Simpson. That's not my point. My point is that feminists will deliberately not choose the most beautiful woman in the room because they have this sort of mean girl energy to them. There's that aspect of feminism, right? Like, Paris Hilton is skinny, Vogue, not really the same sense. Taylor Swift, she's like a wooden plank. She's not sensual in that same way. So it wouldn't really work. But the classic beauty pageant women, not the new kind, because again, they've changed, but like a Victoria's Secret angels that they used to call them. Those were very like bombshell women. Stunning, actually. Those were the classic types that should have been the Barbies, because the goal of the film should have been to get women who don't have plastic surgery, they don't have those Instagram lips and fake eyelashes and whatnot, but they should look as natural as possible, like Angelina Jolie in Tomb Raider, right? She could have been a brunette Barbie. Women who are so stunning that even if they didn't have makeup, they would still be beautiful. And I think that's what they should have went for. But the feministic undertone of mediocrity was there. Was really there when you look at it. Not so much for the Ken dolls, but especially for the female Barbies, which shows that they were trying to not actually pick the most beautiful women, but to pick average Barbies, which played into their stereotypical Barbie agenda. I hope I'm explaining that right, because you can see the cleverness of how they broke it down, and how it is a woke film. Okay, now, marinate on those thoughts, because when you see the girls breaking apart the Barbies, the baby dolls, and then you hear physicist Barbie and I wrote a book, you begin to notice like the little girls tearing off the apron, and now it's about vanity instead of serving. You see the split of motherhood going in there quite clearly. And then the young girl Sasha, and she's the new leftist feminist versus sort of like the CEO boss babe of the corporate world. There's a dynamic there. And there's more coming. I have a lot of ideas to share with you. But, man, it's wild. I was actually thinking about getting my youngest a baby doll, because I'll grab her stuffies and I'll cuddle with them, and then she'll do the same, and like she'll cuddle with it and touch them, and you can see the affection, and I think that's really great. Taking away the baby doll from girls, it's almost like taking away the fire truck, the helicopter, the police car and the toy bow and arrows from the boys. You see what I'm saying? And what they're trying to do is break those stereotypical norms. And for these girls to play with Barbies, it does make you grow up faster. And it changes the way in which you play. Everyone made their Barbies get naked and do inappropriate things and kiss. Sex comes into play when you play with Barbies, right? And when you play with baby dolls, it's more of, I'm a mommy, I'm a wife, I have a house, I'm happy. When's husband coming home? I had a play kitchen in my grandma's house. And so I had Barbie dolls, but I also had a play kitchen. And it was really sweet of my grandma to do that. The craft play kitchen. So I was able to have the best of that. And also have a dollhouse. And a tree swing. And run around and play. Great childhood in some aspects. Not every aspect. Right? Still a lot of problems and poverty. But things weren't as expensive in terms of toys in that time. Because we had Toys R Us. It was a little different than today. But when you get a Barbie doll, it changes the way in which you play and what you think about. Right? It plugs in the idea of, I want this, how do I get it? And, is it marry the rich guy, or I earn it myself? Something to think about. Let me know what you think. And if you'd like to join my blog and support the channel, it's, sorry, my throat's dry, www.subscribestar.com/Milahan Archive. Hope to see you there.